Next, jump aboard the bus. David Cassidy recalls wild times on and off the set of The Partridge Family.
Well, here we go.
Got the camera.
Got the camera. I think I've said this over and over, and Maty and I both believe this. It's so much fun doing this show because the people you grew up watching, not to say that I'm that much older than our next guest, you get to see them, you get to meet them.
Oh, it's the coolest. I mean, look at this. Tiger Beats official Partridge magazine. Look at it. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is so cool. And look at this.
Oh.
For those, what are these for? The, remember the Viewmasters?
Oh, right.
They had everything. Look at the Partridge Family lunchbox.
You know, let's just go through his stuff and not bring him out.
No, let's go. No, I want to meet him. Oh, definitely.
If you were a teenage girl in the early 70s, and no one would know that more than me, you were probably a big fan of our next guest. His picture was, I don't know what that means. His picture was
Maybe you should write a book, Mike.
His picture was on the cover of every teen magazine. His fan club, get this, his fan club had more members than the Beatles or Elvis. And he starred each week on a top-rated sitcom. Now he's written a book called Come On, Get Happy, which details the many highs and lows of being a huge teenage superstar. Would you please welcome David Cassidy.
So, I come on the show.
Yeah, we do.
Well, we do our little homework here, Dave.
What? This is David Cassidy in the 1990s, serious actor. Well, I guess that's kind of out the window, isn't it? Well, here you are, David, as a jigsaw puzzle.
Could there be more David Cassidy and Partridge Family things out? My
goodness.
Could there
be dumber David Cassidy things out?
At the time, though.
At the time, and absolutely right. Actually, I mean, I love the fact that everywhere I go, people have this stuff. And I'm very flattered by the fact that people, so many fans of mine, I've been out doing, with my book, I've been out doing in-store appearances all over the planet for the last 4 weeks. I finished in New York on Broadway in Blood Brothers.
Which, by the way, you were great.
Thank you.
Saw it.
Good to see it.
Great.
Thank you. You don't have to applaud that. You just were. Thank you very much. It's the kind of work that I was not really there for me for so many years,
right.
and in fact, so difficult trying to address seeing all this stuff in front of me. This was the reason why people's perception of David Cassidy, who was a very young and serious actor when I began prior to doing The Partridge Family, and why it was so difficult for me to get over it. And one of the reasons why, in fact, I wrote the book.
Well, let's go back. Let's start then. How popular were you? I mean, share with us some of the good stuff.
Well, I was a god. What are you talking about? How popular was I? I don't know. You know, it was a long time ago. And at the time, you know, everything, you must look at it in relationship to what it was. The world was so different. This is all very innocent stuff. And in those days, there weren't poster shops and there weren't things like that. Marketing was in its infancy. And I had no idea. I was an actor really trying to pay my rent at 19. I had no idea that it was ever going to turn into this. And I had done a Broadway show. I'd done like 10 leads and guest shots, you know, on the Bonanzas, Marcus Welby, Medical Center, Mod Squad, all those M shows. And
did you just decide to stick with a letter?
Yeah, I decided to stick with all the M-hour programming at the time. And the Partridge Family came up as a half-hour show. I'd never really done any comedy, and I had.
Were you musically inclined at the time?
Well, I had played in rock and roll bands, and I was very different from all of the, you know, when I got into this. Where is that purple? Oh, there it is. The maroon crushed velvet stuff.
Yeah.
You have no idea. I used to show up at work in the morning in my cutoffs and my T-shirt and no shoes. I'd get out, you know, I'd be like rolling out of bed. I'd get in the car, drive to work, and I'd come out. I'd go into my dressing room and I'd put on puffed sleeves and crushed velvet. So people's perception of me was this really clean-cut, really badly dressed teenager, and I was in fact in my 20s. A very different guy. My musical taste.
Stay right there. Tell me about that, because you're also in a period there of a lot of drugs, rock and roll. The sexual mores were
Well,
to say the least, looser.
Yeah. From the time the late 60s, from middle 60s on, when I was a teenager, the world went through a dramatic change.
What'd you do, though? How much of that did you partake in?
Well, I think like everybody else, I was very much aligned with the whole political ideology, and that I was very much on the cutting edge of the social and sexual revolution of the mid-60s. It was, it was very innocent, though. It was like tune in, drop out, we'd smoke some pot, and, in high school it was like a thing because our parents didn't do it. It had nothing to do with, machine guns and gang warfare and any of that stuff. It was a very different time. It's very innocent, believe it or not, and it was about personal freedom. What was so interesting is that growing up at that time as a teenager and then in my early 20s, it was probably, outside of Sodom and Gomorrah, it was probably the only time I can remember in history that the world was really socially acceptable of that kind of behavior, of sexual freedom and drugs and all of that. And to be a teenager and have all of that available to you, I
think you'd find parents that are going, well, I didn't accept it. My kids did it, but I wasn't, I wasn't proud of it.
There were lots of people, and there was a very fine line that was drawn.
Right.
I think it was Abby Hoffman that said, never trust anyone over 30.
Right.
At that time when he said it, the generation and the consciousness of the generation was really somewhere in their late teens, early 20s, college. We were talking about the time of Kent State and all of that.
Yeah, hold on to that, because that gets real interesting, and how you quit at the top and why you did that, and Shirley Jones, your stepmom, and everything else that's happened then and that's happening now. Got to talk about all of that. We got you glued here. We're going to keep you.
I'm glued.
Going to take a break. Little pause for the cause. Be right back.
If you are going to be in the Los Angeles area, tomorrow, superstar Hulk Hogan reveals why, now in his 40s, he's stepping back into the wrestling ring. And from bellinis to flapjacks, we'll show you how to make the perfect pancakes.
Welcome back. Talking with David Cassidy. And we left with this big question. I mean, why'd you give it up at the top? Why'd you walk away from it all?
Well, this is probably contributed a lot to my loss of my own real identity and people perceiving me as this sort of puzzle, cardboard cutout kind of lunchbox. And
because I asked you during the break if this bothered you at all, that we had bought this out, and
I said, no, it doesn't bother me at all. I have no agenda with it. In fact, I'm very flattered the fact that I've had an impact on their lives and been a positive role model for them. The weight at 24 years old when I retired was so heavy, living up to people's expectation, being the object of their projection, being somebody who was very different from the guy that people perceived me as, and not being an innocent, not being a guy who was perfect, and feeling very flawed, and feeling like there was millions of people that everything I did, everything I wore, everything I said was in stone, and I couldn't live with it because I knew I was very insecure.
Was that the low point then of your career?
No, it wasn't. I think the low point came many years afterwards when I didn't have the heat and the momentum. When I retired, I knew I had to start over, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and my life really spun out very badly after that. My dad died shortly after. My manager died.
Jack Cassidy.
Right. And my relationship with him was extremely strained because of my fame and my success, and he had real problems with it, and all I wanted was for him to put his arms around me and say, I really love you. And we never had that. And all of it is in my book, and the reason I wrote it so that people understand the purpose of being completely and totally, unabashedly honest was that I wanted to get the monkey off my back forever so that people know that I loved the fact that I got to work with some great people. I loved playing it, but creatively and artistically it became the albatross that I had to carry around, and that is really what it is. I look at it now, and it's fun, and it's great, and my 3-year-old loves it, and it's cool. It's back on Nick at Night. It's been a big hit.
A whole other audience.
It has a whole new audience, and because I have a successful career today, I feel good about it. If I didn't, I think I would really have a lot of problems with it, because I think I wouldn't be able to look at this as something of the past that was very successful and fun, and feeling good about myself today enables me to feel that way. And having the kind of career, the kind of serious work that I get to do now, and I don't mean just serious, but credible work.
Right.
Blood Brothers has afforded me an opportunity to do, as an actor, I think the kind of roles that I've always wanted to do. They're developing a pilot for me now for network television for next year. And there's a lot of other things that I want, David Cassidy really wants to do that in the 80s I couldn't get a job in television or in film. I couldn't because of this stuff.
During that period, did you stay in contact with your co-stars, and what was...
Yeah, in and out. You know, I didn't...
Well, your stepmother was, of course, Shirley Jones.
Shirley, yeah. I still see her and talk to her because she was married to my dad, and then we've always stayed very, very close.
Wasn't that an odd thing, though, having your stepmom as your mom on TV?
It was remarkable.
You're living this other life, really, truly, off camera.
Well, she was a great ally of mine, and because my relationship with my dad was so strained, and I hadn't lived with him since I was 3 1/2, and he, I think, felt very guilty. I think he abandoned my mom and I, and in a lot of ways, I never got over that pain. She was a great conduit between the two of us, and has remained one of my closest friends and persons that I mean, she's a part of my family. I love her. And my brothers and I, consequently, you know, we get together and we've become very, very close. My brother Sean, of course, and I just did Blood Brothers for a year, which took our relationship to a whole other level because it's such an extraordinarily powerful, emotional play that we got to look at our own relationship as brothers, playing brothers on the stage that have to go through this life and death kind of existence together. It was really amazing. And we had dinner last night and talked about it. We've been out of it for a month, and I really miss it, you know.
Yeah.
What do you wish that you knew then that you know now?
Can I count them? The wonderful thing about being 19 and 20 is that it took me a long time to get over it. Thank God it happened so young for me, because, I mean, I'm past 40, and I'm whole and healed. My life has never been happier and better.
And
I'm not too old to where I can't.
You know what's sad is you still look as good as you do. You know, you say you're 40, but you're. Yeah, you know, what do you think? A little shag again? Get back in, put the old velvet on? Maybe wear the little choker? I tell you what, this was such a great kick for us to.
Well, thank you.
I'm very, very flattered. We grew up watching. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
We wish you luck on the book. Come back and see it time and continued great work.
Thank you.
Yeah, David Cassidy, we'll be right back.